Hey everybody, Jay Barino here. Welcome back. We are going to be finishing IXION here pretty soon. We're starting Chapter 5. It's the final chapter. The ship itself, the Tiqqun, is pretty much fully built out. There's really not much to do except manage resources as they come in. Ice, hydrogen, maybe a little iron. For the most part, though, we don't need to be worrying too much about anything on the ship. Everything's looking pretty good. So, now that we're here, we're trying to find Remus. That's been the goal the whole time. Because it was located as an exoplanet that we could settle, and we can get the heck off this ship. So, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and swap my probe launcher in Sector 5 over to normal probes. We can get rid of this, I suppose, and then, yeah, build up a normal probe, and then we're just going to start finding all the points of interest. The more I guess we can get with each probe, the better. But it's not that important. It's just like if we need it, it's there. Carbon is always something we could use because we're using a lot of polymer at this point. So let's send Archimedes over here to Palatine.
A science ship has arrived at its
and we're collecting research, of which we have a ton of right now. We'll send the professor up to Plutarch. And our probes build super quick now as well. So I'm just going to try and reveal as much of the sector as possible before we proceed. You know what? Let's make sure we can see some hydrogen as well. All right, Palatine, let's see. Despite the interference from the intense cloud cover over Palatine, our probe was able to still detect unusually high levels of mercury on its surface. The planet's environment is toxic and should not pose a problem for our team. But shouldn't pose a problem. Okay, we've landed on Palatine near the highest registered concentrations of mercury. A huge river of the element flows over a cliff, a waterfall in silver, ending in an ocean several kilometers away. Interesting. Let's go ahead and establish meteorological analysis infrastructure. Quicksilver, you're up. Close this, and let's also go ahead and set Sector 3 to be able to pull in even more iron, of which we have a ton of it. So we can just load it up, because we don't need to demolish anything in Sector 3 at this point. Everything's looking good. So, we're still training colonists. It's crazy. Okay, yeah, let's just wait for this. This is going to take some time to go back and forth. Speed the game up.
Has completed its scan.
More probes. Again, really, we're just looking for those points of interest. That might be Remus. And then hit that. And we've reached Plutarch. First readings from Plutarch reveal the planet to be a gravitational aberration. Potential sites for analysis have been located. Exoskeleton technology will allow our team to begin planetary exploration. Fragmented transmissions from the professor's crew are coming through at an extremely rapid rate. They say that they've arrived on site and have waited for instructions for several cycles now. Well, that's not good. We're going to just go ahead and perform an intrusive analysis, because I think this is one where, because of what's going on, we don't want to spend more time than we need here. So we'll just do this. Controlled explosions brought many telluric samples to the surface for analysis. Studying the environmental conditions of Plutarch has confirmed Lyra Fraus's work on periodic waves and matter arrangement. And we're going to leave. This is one where if you try to set up anything additional, then bad things happen. So we'll just leave the planet. We don't want to mess with our professor team.
Accident has occurred in the Tiqqun.
And we're just waiting for probes. Okay, I'm just gonna start getting whatever in terms of upgrades. Make the mushroom walls better, I guess. Like, there's really nothing that's needed, and we have so much science. I will collect everything in this sector just for fun, but this is how we're doing it. Okay, right there. And then up here. So we're going to finish the Beyond Time and Space achievement as well. There are 2 planets relating to that achievement in this final sector, because we've done everything correctly up until this point, but you do have to go to one of the planets before the second one in order to properly complete it. Honestly, getting even another science team is not feeling too bad.
Greetings, people of the VVS Tiqqun. I am Agora of the 3rd generation. We, the Ashen Guides, know that you have been searching for Remus for a long time. However, we have established a delicately balanced ecosystem here on this planet that cannot suffer your presence. We remember DOLOS as our first and closest ally, as the one who made the Neocon Parsheville teachings visible. Pioneers of genetic conatus, you have suffered repression, persecution, and extermination. In memory of the doors you opened for us, of our common past, it is our turn to open the door for you. There is a way for you and your crew to join us. You may be a part of our community. Shape it. We will no longer be we. You will no longer be you. We will become us. For this to happen, you will need to be genetically optimized for life on Remus. We will incorporate your genetic heritage into our society. You will follow the elder process my predecessor applied to us. You will be adapted to the planet's gravity, to photosynthesize. You will live in symbiosis with Remus. Let me be clear. Humanity's mistake has been its attempts to transform ecosystems, to deny its place in them. We do not terraform, we change. We are not intruders. We are a crystalline part of the ecosystem. You will live longer and work according to your abilities and passions. Our elites guide us with pragmatism, intellect, empathy, and with sensibility. We have no other interest than to follow genetic conatus. Let us show you the new cradle of humanity. Trust in genetic conatus. We followed a self-similar pattern.
All right. So the Ashtongites have made it here before us, and they survived. And I talked about this a little, I think, in the previous episode, which is like, what is this all leading to? What is Dolos trying to do? And the Ashtongites have bioengineered themselves to live in harmony with the ecosystem on Remus. Sounds pretty good, actually. It sounds like an ideal outcome. If we can follow what they're asking us to do, then we can bioengineer ourselves and join their already built society on Remus and escape this, the awful living conditions on the Tiqqun. Before we do that, though, let's explore the entire system. All right, so let's check here. Almost all of Palatine's weather systems have been infiltrated by Mercury. The resulting dense and toxic cloud cover would not prove conducive to the development of life or any potential colonization efforts. Fine. We can locate the source of the river. Trace the Mercury source back to its source. Go for it. Okay, we're waiting to get to Numitor as well. So much science to collect. So we might as well just go ahead and if we don't have it, let's research it. So, here and here.
A probe has completed its scan.
And we've got hydrogen coming in. We can just do one in each sector, picking that up. And again, there's not much need in finding really anything here. We're just going to probe everything we can. Name a protocol dimenting DDoS attack to flood Eden Vigilance. Administrator, this is Costanza Colombo of the Sector 1 Scientific Syndicate. We're once again taking the liberty of overriding Dolos protocols in order to contact you. We did some analysis on Eden after she was attacked by the Piranesi's PA. We've unearthed some interesting files. Information on Remus and numerous colonization protocols were present in Eden's database from the beginning of the Tiqqun mission. And that's not all. We also discovered details on another viable exoplanet within the Ilias system, the planet Romulus. This planet has been masked so that it doesn't appear in any reports you receive. We put in place administrative countermeasures, and we encourage you to send a team to the planet. I've heard you.
An accident
So Romulus is over here, and when you mouse over it, it says, again, this is all filtered through Eden.
The science ship team has completed a task.
The crew are hallucinating, a symptom of dead Earth sickness and UN propaganda. Romulus does not exist. So now we're finally coming to some conflict here with Eden and the Dolos directives. The Dolos directives were set before the Lunaclism and before all of that, so again, we've been constrained by this the whole time. Typically, the advice they try and give us is good, when it's day-to-day safety-related stuff, but when it comes to something like this, where it's like, hey, you better go to Remus and bioengineer yourselves and join the Ashtongites when there is an alternative, that's something we have to start questioning more. So, anyway, we're here at Numitor. Despite the low average temperatures of Numitor, abnormal heat zones have been detected on the gas planet's atmosphere. We have entered Numitor's atmosphere. Opaque and crimson, it makes spotting anything here difficult. Extreme pressure readings have been recorded near the planet's liquid core. We await instructions. We can set up a floating research center. Sure. Quicksilver, you're up. Close this. And let's check Palatine as well. The team of the Archimedes discovered the source, a huge lake of mercury from which the liquid metal flows. During survey efforts, Jose Torres fell into the lake and seems to have ingested large quantities of mercury. They were saved by the team, but mission reports detail Jose Torres experienced multiple hallucinatory visions from the exposure. Jose Torres describes witnessing UN attacks on DOLOS infrastructure, wars and famine squeaking across Earth, massive crowds being crushed together, fleeing from deadly mobs. DOLOS security protocols recommend Jose Torres be transferred to an infirmary immediately. We can do that. We're going to repatriate the Archimedes and transfer Jose Torres to an infirmary. Sure. So, it looks like... Oh, it looks like it was already done. I guess just really quick, just redock, and then we'll send you back out. Okay, this is going to take some time. I think we'll just move the Tiqqun. And this is where we are really making the choice for how we want to end the game. We can question nothing and bioengineer ourselves to join the Ashtongites. There's actually more to it that's interesting we can discuss if we were to choose that route. Okay, Archimedes, go back to Palatine and collect the science. And let's... Again, if we don't have it, we might as well research it. And we're fine on hydrogen. We're fine on power. Batteries are all looking good. Just so much science to collect, I guess. Okay, so this should go pretty quick now that we're orbiting it. And yeah, we're just speeding through. I don't think there's any other points of interest. It doesn't look like it. We want to go to Vulcan before we go to Avatine. That's specifically for the Beyond Time and Space achievement. We saved the crew of the light bulb, if you recall. They should be thawed out and living happily in retirement at this point. Our waste economy, I think we have to turn this on at this point. My goodness. Okay, what you got for me, science team? Naomi Protocol, hijacking subroutines. Administrator, this is Costanza Colombo of the Sector 1 Scientific Syndicate. Eden continues to block Romulus despite our countermeasures. I won't beat around the bush any longer. We need to shut down Eden. She's altering all the data presented to you as well as data that crew members exchange with each other. You've probably noticed this already. Eden obeys the principles of DOLOS, which today are probably more than a century out of date. She is programmed to prevent us from reaching Romulus and making a fresh start. She won't deviate from the old dreams of the long-crushed corporations that brought about the lunaclism. She's totally disconnected from what the crew, including you, have gone through and are still going through. We successfully deposited a protocol for disconnection in the EVA airlock database. Please, Administrator, you're our only hope. I've heard you. I like how if the crew wants to talk to us, because we're in just like this secluded tube, I guess, they have to DDoS attack Eden and go through the Naomi protocol in order to give us an option here. So we have the option if we want now to build Eden deactivation. Administrator ... We're going to just wait for a little bit of time and we're going to talk a little bit more about this choice. If we move the Tiqqun to Remus, then that's it. Like that's kind of our only that locks us in, I believe, once we start the Remus quest. The Tiqqun needs to be in orbit and waiting for a science ship, and because Eden is still online, it says that the crew is hallucinating here. So, again, we're just waiting for more science that we don't need. We'll go ahead and grab the health center. Go ahead and upgrade the docking bay. You notice there's an unknown at the docking bay. There's also an unknown here. These are mutually exclusive. This one will become available if we choose to join the Ashtongites. This one will become available in the docking bay if we choose to try to colonize Romulus. Now, here's the thing. I think on its surface, joining the Ashtongites sounds pretty good. Just if you think about the theme of the game and how we got here due to just greed and corporate overreach and destroying our planet, not living in harmony with nature. It sounds pretty good to then... here, we'll send you over to Romulus just to confirm that we can't do anything there. It sounds pretty good to, like, you know, make a change so that you can live with nature, and we basically become plants. That being said, what you don't know until you start that process is you have to go through the bioengineering process. Now, when you do that, and you go through the bioengineering process, what actually happens... Well, let's finish Numitor, and I will tell you.
A science ship team has completed.
After several surveys, the team of the professor discovered the existence of a second, much smaller and denser core of Numitor. Self-similar space particles were also detected, and the team proposes that there is a correlation between the presence of these particles and the core's strong geothermal activity. Leave the planet. Cool. And now we have a floating research station on a planet in our new home system.
An accident
So
has
when you
occurred in the
start
Tiqqun.
doing the bioengineering, the building accrues a huge amount of waste. And then you might ask,
Has arrived at
what
its
is the waste
destination.
that is being accrued here? And the answer to that question is, if you are very observant, you'll notice that your crew count actually decreases. And you basically have to turn people into like a bio paste in order to facilitate the process. So we have to sacrifice a certain amount of our crew to bioengineer the rest of them to live in harmony on Remus to fulfill the Ashtongites' request. You don't know that, though, until you choose that path. I know that already, so I'm going to take my fresh start on Romulus, even knowing that, you know, centuries and millennia in the future, we may just repeat the mistakes of the past and destroy the planet. But for now, we have the opportunity. Our 5,000... Almost our 6,001 member crew has made it this far, and I refuse to sacrifice any of them at this step. We could always maintain contact with Remus and work with them at some point in the future. You know, we can still work with the Ashtongites. We just don't have to necessarily live on Remus and follow their bioengineered protocol. And again, this also just fits with genetic conatus, which was part of the Marduk Council's paradigm of what they wanted us to do. We don't have to do what Dolos wanted us to do before the Lunaclism happened. They clearly were misguided, and I don't like being beholden to technocrats' weird ideology. I'll leave that to real life, where we're stuck doing that. All right, Romulus. The crew are hallucinating. Yes, Administrator, there is no planet here. Okay, so let's send the Archimedes over here to Vulcan. And I think that's my cue. We probably want to start considering deactivating Eden. Just waiting for science. Fire station. Never gonna have problems with fire again. I think we had one fire in the whole game. All right, Numitor is done. Professor, head up to Lupercal.
A science ship has arrived at its destination.
There are numerous electromagnetic disturbances on the surface of the comet Vulcan. First visual capture the comet's vibrant green tail. This is the team of the Archimedes. We've landed on Vulcan. Proximity analysis indicates the comet is shedding large amounts of boron. Significant electromagnetic disturbances have also been detected. It appears to be similar in nature to those that were observed on the Rakutansky comet in the Immortan system. Sorry in advance, Archimedes crew. You're in danger. All right, study the electromagnetic disturbances. This is for the Beyond Time and Space achievement. You have to go to Vulcan before you go to Avatine.
An accident has occurred in the Tiqqun.
Okay, we're bringing in... Yeah. Ice, hydrogen. Again, we have so much of it stockpiled. Our food production is covered and fine.
A science ship has arrived at its
That's nearly everything on this side. Again, I have so much science, it's crazy. And we've really gotten over the hump. All right, Lupercal. Scan analysis of Lupercal has provided some unusual data. The planet is home to numerous anomalies and high levels of carbon allotropes. Lupercal's atmosphere is very thin and toxic. Visible particles hang suspended within it and move in the light winds of the planet. Impressively, vast quantities of diamond encrust Lupercal's surface. The thin atmosphere will provide little protection. We have chosen a study location that rarely experiences direct exposure to Ilia, the star of the system. Any increase of Lupercal's surface temperature could jeopardize the team's safety. So I'm going to tell you what. Let's not bother with any extra analysis. I think you have losses if you do either of these, so we're just going to perform the intrusive analysis and get out. Again, at the end of the game, a lot of stuff is much more risky. Let's go ahead and just collect that science first. And let's go ahead and move the Tiqqun into orbit around Romulus. Make Eden a little nervous before we shut her down. And we got plenty of battery power.
A science ship team has
completed a task. 4, 3, 2, 1, go! We ventured down into the crevasses of Vulcan, seeking the source of the electromagnetic disturbances, entering a small cave full of luminescent boron crystals. We stopped to take readings. Results seemed to vary. Proceeding further in, we found a large, floating, gray sphere, similar to the one found by the Gear crew. After liaising with the Tiqqun scientific community, a number of controversial theories have been put forward and proposals made for possible experiments that might be attempted on the sphere. Debate continues. I've noticed a growing fascination for the sphere among other expedition members. This is absurd, since it is obviously only for me. Uh-oh. Okay. So we can end data listening protocols, and we're going to analyze the sphere first. Under strict psychological surveillance. And then we're up here at Lupercal, where I think we're just leaving. Yeah, the light of the explosion was reflected by the floating atmospheric particles in the diamond on Lupercal's surface. The murky skies were illuminated for a brief, spectacular moment. Particle behavior anomalies were detected beside residue analysis. We prepared some carbon resource packets for extraction. We don't need that. The Professor team will pack up their equipment and leave Lupercal. I mean, what else are we doing, though, with our fleet? Go ahead and pick up the carbon. Sure. Never hurt nobody. We should have some space for it. Sector 6? All right, final workshop upgrade here. Final EVA airlock upgrade here for faster build. That's our new home. That's, according to Eden, doesn't exist. All right, we're waiting for Lupercal science, and Vulcan is about done. By applying preventative monitoring protocols, the team of the Archimedes were able to counter any perceived negative impacts from the sphere, successfully sending several measuring devices into the sphere itself. The team was able to collect a large number of unusually precise data sets. 575 science. Now, based on our previous interactions on Rakutansky, scientists of the Tiqqun proposed a number of theoretical experiments that could be conducted on the sphere. These should allow for complete mapping of the electromagnetic interactions generated by it. Or, Naomi Protocol, give the team free rein to study the sphere as they see fit. For the Beyond Time and Space achievement, we have to allow them to do what they see fit. Interestingly enough, if you perform the suggested experimentation, you get a little surprise. The Gear and its 5 team members will come through the sphere and they can rejoin your crew. So the Gear and the people that we lost in Sector 2, we could bring back to us here. But unfortunately, in order to fully complete the quest, we have to allow the team free rein. But I think it's unfortunate that you can't do both here. I don't think you can do both. Just sort of it's a neat thing. Okay, we're waiting here. Fire starter's been unlocked, sure. Yeah, go ahead and get those probe launcher upgrades. You can get every single upgrade. How exciting. Ashton Geit's still waiting for us to just show up. They have no idea what we're doing. The Professor has retrieved everything from Lupercal. Let's go ahead and just send them down to Remus so that they can collect the science there.
Ship team has completed a task.
The Archimedes team selected and prepared one of its members to enter the sphere. Ramanala Hona. As they stepped through, their communication link went dead. The sphere volatilized and boron crystals all over Vulcan began to crumble. We're going to leave the comet. We're going to be collecting science there for legitimate years. Just keep the speed going. The Archimedes also has to redock here before we can send it to Avatine, where we can complete our Beyond Time and Space achievement. It's nice to know that the crew of the Light Bulb has been able to retire. We recovered them from their cryopods. Feels good, man. Everything around the ship is looking good. We have plenty of resources. We're recycling for most of our steel. Just go back to electronics. This electronics thing is full, so we can just send 20 to each sector because we have so many.
An accident has occurred in the Tiqqun.
All right. Accidents still occurring. What's new? I don't know if we necessarily have to wait for all of this. We could send a science ship there later. Let's collect what's at Remus, though.
Has arrived at its destination.
Archimedes, go ahead and get restaffed because we lost a member into another sphere. And keep in mind, I also handicap myself being on hard difficulty. We've had this permanent -1 from our own mortality because we lost the gear and its crew. What's funny is I think if they reappear, that doesn't go away. And I think you get that if and when you lose a full science team in any case. It's not necessarily just from the Rakatansky being blown up like that. Here, you can head over to Vulcan to collect. Archimedes is docking. And it's full, so you're going to go to Avatine so we can complete this. And I think it's about time we shut down Eden. So let's go ahead and build the Eden deactivation. Sorry, girl. And it's built very, very quick.
My sensors indicate an intrusion into...
Yep, goodbye. Next transmission.
People of the VVS Tiqqun, we have detected the presence of a BMS warship in the Ilia system. The Piranesi has followed in the footsteps of your Vol trace. We have no weapons, no military solution against such an enemy. To ensure the survival of this settlement in Ilia, you will have to find a way to silence him, once and for all.
Great. So the Piranesi is now here, and it's mad. And we want to try and just finish everything that we have ongoing before we proceed. So right now, not much of a threat. The Ashton Guides, while we won't be joining them, we still have to... I still like to make sure that they don't get wiped out by the Piranesi. Okay, so Avatine. Preliminary data contains many inconsistencies. Avatine emits large amounts of particles that are not supposed to be detached from an atomic structure. Although these emissions do not appear to pose any physical danger to our scientific teams, theorized psychological impacts range from the unknown of the disastrous DOLOS security protocols recommended extreme caution. A garbled transmission was detected, broadcasting from under the planet's surface. We have landed on the planet. A powdery layer of yellow sulfur covers Avatine. It falls into the many crevices strewn across the planet's surface. The interior of the hollow planet is revealed through these fissures, which offer a spectacular view down to Avatine's core. It is unlike anything we've seen. Telluric pillars support the planet's surface, reaching up and out of the central, perfectly spherical core. Like a metallic seed, it seems to absorb the rain of powdered sulfur that falls upon it from above. The scrambled transmission comes from the core of the planet. It's a message from Augustus Montano and the crew of the gear. They have sent us a diagram for a type of transmitter, the Nat Shack. Nat Shack? I don't know. I don't care about this other stuff. We are going to build the Nat Shack transmitter as transmitted to us by our lost crew members that have been into the spheres. Do it. This option is only available had we done the Rakatansky, had we done... basically everything I've done related to the spheres in the other missions. Those are requirements. So... Sure, get that. Gateway upgrade. Sure, get that. Who cares? I mean, we don't really even need to be collecting this. We have more research to finish literally everything. Okay, Avatine. The Nat Shack transmitter has been built and is ready to be sent into the heart of Avatine. Archimedes' team mission reports indicate that despite the incongruous nature of many of the construction instructions, the build manual of the transmitter appears to be specifically designed for the Archimedes team. The team tried to understand the workings of the device they were building. Makut Ahulwala and a specialist in Frausian technology identified the use of Fraus-Tachyon catalysts. We will deploy the NatSac transmitter into the heart of Avatine. Yes, they're waiting for us. I'm thinking we just go ahead and we send the professor to Romulus here so we can begin our colonization as well. You'll notice that Eden no longer alerts us to anything because she is shut down. But that means we can explore Romulus once we get a science ship there. We can go ahead and send the Archimedes over here to continue collecting that science later. The other thing that is going to be a necessity is... Well, hang on. We have a request here. Before we do that, very briefly... I'm going to switch this over to be auto-building missile countermeasures. And let's just go ahead and launch these probes. Because the Piranesi's here, so we need to know that we can counter... We can counter it as needed when it starts inevitably launching missiles at us. So let's check our request. So we don't know when there's accidents anymore. We don't know when there's requests anymore. We just have to be checking ourselves. Administrator, everything confirms the sad truth. The Piranesi has followed us to the Ilias system. Great.
Administrator, I am not dead yet. I will feed on your pitiful community. I will build my rebirth. Are you ready for your simulation?
It's always a rogue AI, man. Close. All right, we just got to stay away from it. It just casually floats towards Remus, and we want to try and finish this before it gets there. All right, Avatine again. You open the DLS interface linking to the Archimedes' team. At the very moment the transmitter reaches the sphere that is the planet's core, your sight blurs and distorts, your senses heighten and overwhelm you. Very quickly, the workings of your command sarcophagus... See, we're in like a weird coffin doing all of this. From which you administer the Tiqqun, and all the packets of data that are at your fingertips are no more than microscopic bytes of information, lost in a flow. You lose track of the boundaries that have contained your reality since your implementation on board the Tiqqun. In a moment, a period of time difficult to grasp, sensations shape a new space, dark and luminous. It is filled with transparent mother-of-pearl sheets of pastel color. In front of you stands the members of the Tiqqun's crew. Without needing to distinguish them, you know them instantly. They are the crew of the Gear, Augustus Montano, and... You speak with one voice, exposing the nature of this place, which escapes all human capacity for conceptualization, and yet in this moment, all seems limpid to you. You're outside of space and time, even beyond even self-similar space. You're on board the entities that Bargeville described only in story. A specific moment where ecosystems collapse and the path of the years to come will determine what becomes of the human species contains a possibility, one that will impact countless versions of humanity. This all kind of ties together with the more, again, sort of cryptic and grim ideas of, like, what does it mean to traverse faster than light through self-similar space and these Faust tachyon particles, and how we are sort of creating multiple timelines by doing this. Collectively, humanity's energy did decrease, is decreasing, will decrease. The relationship to technical progress is altered. It will be considered not as an end, but as a means, which, if not controlled, could prove lethal to the species. We will go beyond the stars. The voice that is ours, the voice of Dolos, was, and is, will be the one that prevails. Progress is guided by the elite, whom set the horizons to be reached. Or, everything has an end. Humanity accepted, accepts, and will accept its own. A torch is passed from the carbon into hands of silicon. Life will endure. The child of humanity is the machine. I think to get the final achievement, you have to pick balance will be our doctrine, but honestly, if you were to actually read these, why would you pick either of these? Who would pick the let the elite guide everything? To be fair, I think there is merit in leadership. There is absolutely merit in leadership, but when you consider it as guidance by the elite, that is not the same as saying have strong and well-meaning leaders who can competently guide and set people on the right course and get the right people into the right positions to succeed, right? So we would never pick we go beyond the stars and following Dolos' doctrine, because look where it got us, the lunicalism. And then giving birth to the machine, I mean, that's the Piranesi, which is here to try to kill us. So we're going to say balance will be our doctrine. Without pronouncement, doubt, or debate, the decision was taken. The pearly space closes. Returning to the sarcophagus, you know the choice does not impact this reality, but an infinity of others. In the minutes and seconds that follow, the memory of this moment disintegrates like a dream lost upon waking. Leave the planet. Archimedes' crew gets to live. Head over to Vulcan. Do your thing. So that, if you follow every step that I did throughout the whole game and get to that point and pick balance, you can build the NatSec transmitter and pick balance will be our doctrine, you will get the Beyond Time and Space achievement. The downside is you have to sacrifice some crew members, science crew members, which also means you have to take a -1 permanent stability starting from Chapter 2, which is where it hurts the most. At this point, it doesn't matter, but getting through Chapter 2 and 3 with that debuff can be a challenge. So now let's start our Romulus colonization. Administrator, there is no planet here. Administrator, we, the crew of the Professor, will supervise the colonization procedure. We have access to all the Romulus data. No more Eden protocols will keep us from this planet. We should start by building the necessary infrastructure. There is, however, a small issue. Romulus atmosphere will make mass population transfer down to the planet difficult. Using cargo ships will result in a loss of 70% of colonists. Chlorine in the upper atmosphere will cause strong aerodynamic heating, which our cargo ships are not built to withstand. So we'll have to figure out that problem. In the meantime, let's construct the Administrator site. Guess who's going to do it? Quicksilver. Because we're landing colonists and we have plenty of resources available for it to pull from in Sector 3. This is also why we're orbiting this planet. Meanwhile, the Piranesi is here, but it's sort of chilling and it's fine. Here we go. So Eden is telling us this technically, but you notice, like, there's no voice anymore. Like, Eden is disabled. So we get the alerts as pop-ups, but she's not actually, like, telling us anymore. So many of these. So we're just going to have to shoot down these missiles every so often. It's not a big deal, but it is something we're going to have to do. Let's go ahead and continue getting random stupid upgrades that we don't need. And so we have to train 3,000 colonists. This is why I started this much earlier. Let's go ahead and check. We have requests. News of the Piranesi still being operational and more enraged than ever is throwing the crew in a panic. Stand strong, Administrator. -1, permanent. I think everywhere is still going to be happy. That's no problem. That's right. Exo Fighting Dome is doing the Lord's work. Okay, how about here? Sector 5, it's the science team. Administrator, this is Costanza Colombo from the Scientific Syndicate, Sector 1. The EMV Sharon shuttle, the ship you arrived on, is still stored within the Tiqqun. If we were to recondition it, it could carry a lot of people, many more than a cargo ship could. I mean, its heat dissipation ability alone gets me excited. We prepared a project in the tech lab. We can break down the shuttle's plans, replicate the design, and build more. All the crew can reach Romulus. Understood, let's do it. Romulus colonization is now unlocked. So let's go ahead and queue that up. That's going to allow us to build a certain type of shuttle so that we can start bringing people down to the surface. Meanwhile, before we start kicking things off, let's head over to Sector 3. What we have to do is we have to start moving colonists out of Sector 3 and bringing in non-workers from probably Sector 5 because we need to train them. What's funny is I don't have many places to put them, so we're going to have to go like 200 at a time. So we're going to send 200 colonists from Sector 3 to Sector 4 can hold 200 people. From Sector 3 to Sector 4. And we're going to take 300 non-workers from Sector 5 and send them to Sector 3 so that they can be trained into colonists. And we're going to have to do this how many times? We're going to have to do this 5 times in transferring people out so that we can have enough colonists so that we can properly colonize and have all of our non-workers trained to survive on this planet and not just be totally worthless like they've been throughout this entire flippin' journey. Okay, kick this off. And then meanwhile, the Piranesi is shooting at us, so. We also don't have a way to necessarily deal with the Piranesi. Yes, train. Good work. I could build a few homes over here. I'm going to need this space, weirdly enough. We've launched a missile. I'm going to need that space. It'll become clear in a little bit. As long as we got to keep an eye out for the missiles. Okay, they're bringing in colonists down now. Romulus colonization's looking good. Cue that up next. Everything on the left is done except for the mining ship stuff. You know, we can do this research and bring the information and the knowledge with us to our new home. How about that? So Piranesi moving to Remus. We're going to try and... We want to finish this, even though we're not colonizing Remus. We're going to try and do this so that the Ashtonites won't just get randomly wiped out. Okay, we have another request. Here we go. Administrator Costanza Colombo here from the Scientific Syndicate Sector 1. Hello. Dr. Colombo, you've given us a lot of good news. So good news and bad news. The good news is that we found a solution to permanently solve the Piranesi problem. Now that we've finally reached a viable exoplanet, the Tiqqun has no further purpose. As such, we propose the following. While preparations are being made for colonization, the Tiqqun sectors should be filled with batteries. Once they're charged and the crew ready for exit, a flight plan will be plotted for the Tiqqun to crash into the Piranesi. According to our calculations and based off of our recent experiences with the PRB-1257 system, igniting the stored power should be enough to destroy the BMS warship. Now for the bad news. Only you can command the Tiqqun systems. If we were to disconnect you, ... you will have to be on board when the Tiqqun crashes. I'm sorry. Understood. Or, guess what? We made a copy of the PA from the Protagoras. Use the copy of the Protagoras' PA to direct the Tiqqun through its last moments. Yes. Looking back to that choice as well, it may have seemed like we were dooming the people of the Protagoras that stayed behind by not giving them a copy of Eden's PA, but keep in mind, the suggestion to give them the copy of Eden's PA was filtered through Eden herself. So, from her perspective, that's the correct DOLOS guardrail. Whereas the people that stayed on the Protagoras purposefully didn't want to continue with the DOLOS directive to get to Remus anyway. So we didn't doom them, we just sort of freed them from the PA direction, assuming we don't choose to think that the PA would have just made life better for them. But in reality, by taking the copy of the Protagoras PA, which is a copy of the DOLOS CEO, by the way, if you recall him talking in the prologue, and then when we met it in Chapter 2 on the Protagoras, that's what this is. So we're going to do that. The last stand and data listening protocol. So now we have to build shuttles. And we need to cover enough area in batteries. So we need colonists, we need batteries, and we need shuttles. So let's focus on the colonists briefly here. Once again, it's the same thing. We're just going to keep swapping out. We're going to take 200 colonists from Sector 3 and send them to Sector 5. And we're going to take 200 non-workers from Sector 5 and move them to Sector 3. So that we can continue this training. I mean, we could do it in larger batches, too. So we're going to have to continue training colonists, too, because we're using colonists in order to set up the sites. So as we remove those from the ship, we need to replace them to get up to that 3,000 mark. Yeah, you know what, let's... There's nothing stopping us from just doing this in larger batches. We'll just do 200 at a time, though, just to make sure something doesn't go wrong with the way that the food and the housing is set up. Sector 3 to Sector 5, we're going to send colonists. And then we're going to bring non-workers from Sector 5 and give them to Sector 3. Assuming there's enough non-workers in Sector 5, I think there will be, because we need 1,000. Okay, now in terms of batteries, this is why we have all this extra space in Sector 4. So the amount of batteries that we need is pretty substantial. I'm just going to be throwing these down. There's like no reason to not just sort of get crazy and just fill up the whole... We have so many resources. Let's just do it. And the game will figure it out. And we're not really building anything else. So that's going to take chips. That's going to take steel, which we have. It's a lot. That's fine. Even that might not be enough. We might have to start deconstructing things, such as, like, we don't necessarily need an electronics factory here, so we can just dismantle that and put some batteries there. Okay, now in terms of ships, I need this. We're going to turn off all these. I don't want to be bringing in more things that are clogging up my docking bays. We're going to go ahead and start consuming more hydrogen, just so that the batteries can charge faster. Because we have plenty of hydrogen to make it. Okay, just keep training those people. Another missile. Got to be really cognizant of that, because it only shows up as text. I'd like to get the next thing started here. There we go. The administrator site has been built, energy facilities are operational, oxygen recycling systems are up and running, and the site is being maintained at an optimal 18 degrees. We've also collected some relevant data on the atmospheric entry issue and have sent this to the Tiqqun to support efforts there. Great work. Construct the Syndicate site. The crew of the professor will prepare the Syndicate site. This area will be used for food production, healing, and scientific research. Do it. Quicksilver. Great work. Josephina. I remember your name. Okay, that did good work. Let's go ahead and just set up some Tier 2 batteries down here. And we're getting there. It's going to take some time to build all of these, but we got plenty of material to do it. I don't think anywhere else really has any space. We just have to deconstruct some stuff. The ships. So to make the ships in Sector 1, I really need this docking bay to be emptied. But we can build ships over here, so we have shuttles available. It takes 20 polymer, and we need 20 of them. I think I can only queue up 2 at a time, I think. Oh, no, I can... I don't know. It's fine. The game will figure it out for us. And this is why I have so much polymer available. So we need 400 polymer, of which we have, and also enough to continue activating missile countermeasures. So we should be fine. Training colonists, constructing shuttles, making batteries. I think after all these are done, batteries should be enough. We just have to charge them all, which is why we also have the nuclear power, which is going to help. 944 already. 969. I think our small batteries up here should finish this for us. Pyrenees, they're launching missiles pretty frequently now. Close. Is there anything on the outside of the ship that would help us at this point? No. Wouldn't it be funny, though, if you didn't even get the pop-up that the missile was coming? I feel like that would be a little more appropriate. Still collecting data over here with the Archimedes. Batteries are done. Now we have to charge the batteries. That's fine. We have plenty of time. We just need to keep training colonists, of which there are none. So we only need 200 more. Probably want to do 2 more classes, though, because we have to keep sending them down to set up the individual sites on the planet. So we're going to move colonists from Sector 3 to Sector 5. And then non-workers from Sector 5 to Sector 3. And that goes down briefly because they're in transit, so the game doesn't even see that they're on the ship. But once they arrive in Sector 5, the game's like, oh, you're right. You have non-workers. No problem. Pyrenees is launching missiles. Hit this. Keep making shuttles. And shuttles. Again, I have enough polymer. It's fine. We're just trying to get the hydrogen off the docking bay here. Yeah, 1 more class of colonists. I might even do a final one as well, just because we have to keep moving people down to these sites. Quicksilver's been doing the Lord's work, getting this stuff transferred quickly. The Syndicate site is finished. Agricultural systems are operational. The infirmary is ready and stocked, and a research lab's been set up with all necessary equipment. We've completed more than half of the work required to successfully colonize Romulus. Now we have to construct the Ashtangite site. We'll be able to produce refined sources and maintain our vehicles and infrastructure. A good chunk of resources needed here. Quicksilver, get going, and I think that means we're going to have to train some more colonists because that's going to remove 50 from the ship. So yeah, we'll just have to make 1 more class. Missiles are coming in hot. We're almost done, and there's no way the Pyrenees is going to make it all the way before we finish at this rate. Okay, Archimedes, go ahead and get back to the Tiqqun. Science ships, or I'm sorry, mining ships, go ahead and get back to the Tiqqun. We want all of our crews to be available to get down to the planet when it's time. Okay, so who can we swap with now? Let's go ahead and swap with Sector 1. So we're going to send only colonists from Sector 3 to Sector 1. We can do 200 at a time. We can go over the amount needed. And then Sector 1 to Sector 3, send me only non-workers so that we can get them trained up. And we need to let this run for 2 more cycles, basically. And then we have to wait for all this resource transfer to happen for the Ashtangite site. Again, Quicksilver's been doing a great job. All the batteries are done. We need to just keep making shuttles. So we need 1 more over here, and then this one is building 4. So that's more than enough. I mean, that's exactly 20. And apparently that's enough to get the entire crew off the ship. Okay, Ashtonguite site is set up. Piranesi's launched a missile. Color me shocked. Close transmission. Countermeasures build fast enough. We're all good. Taking a look here again. I guess we can take this research that we're doing and have it available for us when we're down on the surface. We can think of it that way. Okay, 20 shuttles just about done. All of our colonists are prepared. We're just waiting for our sites and our final shuttle, which is going to be done here momentarily. Our Sector 2 space, our Level 2 space specialization is kicking in here, and it got our shuttles to build very, very quickly. Fly the Tiqqun into the Piranesi via the planetary system. Hang on, check this. Construction of the Ashtonguite site has been completed. A multi-factory will allow us to transform the raw materials of Romulus into usable resources. The vehicle storage bay and technical maintenance rooms are operational. The first human city on Romulus has just been born. Leave Romulus. The crew of the Professor will leave the planet. Professor, dock in the Tiqqun, please. So, this is it. Goodbye, Tiqqun. Goodbye, sweet prince. You took us this far. We saved most of our people. How many casualties did we have ultimately? We lost 9 people in this insane journey. Some of those were probably science teams. Hard to say. I'm very happy with our sector layouts. Feels very space efficient across the board. Except Sector 4, but I left that space for batteries specifically. Everything it really worked out. I think everything just really worked out in this playthrough. And I'm very, very happy with how it went. So, here we go.
Administrator, if you are listening to this message, it means the Tiqqun has reached its destination, despite the unpredictable parameters that framed the equation of its journey. The crew have found a new home, whether the one planned for or another. These survivors have already begun to lay the foundations of a new cradle, where creativity, invention, and joy can bloom again. Perhaps you already understand why I insisted, why the mission launch was precipitated. When I discovered that the lunicalism was inevitable, I also understood that any attempt to save our species after this would have been doomed to fail. You took the helm in the only launch window available to us. Thanks to you, our efforts, our mistakes, our sins and sacrifices will sink into oblivion, into the past, while the first pages are written for a newly born humanity.
I like that the dog was there at the end, too. You got to see the dog. The dog made it. It made me sad thinking about it, though, that we only have one dog, so we have no way to have more dogs. They're gone forever after that dog. But we made it to Romulus. Again, the alternative is you go to Remus with the Tiqqun, and then they send you to a bunch of different temples on planets to collect these pieces. I don't know what they're for exactly, but it's I think it's to build the bioengineering center, and then you need a big old space, which we could have done in Sector 4, to build the bioengineering sector, or bioengineering center, and then literally every single crew member on the Tiqqun goes in there and gets bioengineered. But like I said, as you run it, you'll see it also accrues an enormous amount of waste, and that waste is actually, it's people paste, right? So it doesn't feel good to do that, in my opinion, when you realize what's happening. But it's something that you only know is happening when you start that process, and you've already bypassed Romulus. I like the idea, though, of going Romulus because we could always still join the Ashtonguites at another time in the future if we can find a better way to do it. It just doesn't feel right bringing these 6,000 people through all this toil and, all the work they all put in, except the vast majority of the non-workers. And then to just be like, you know what, some of you are just going to become sacrifices so that the rest of us can make it if we don't have to do that. So if this feels right, you don't have to build the science ships, you don't have to train the colonists, you don't have to set up the sites. You literally just have to set up the bioengineering center, which is it's like 500 steel. It's a huge investment, huge amount of power, and then you have to wait while it processes the entire 6,000 people on the Tiqqun. But I collected every cryopod available. I could have lost some in Sector 2 by the looting, but I reloaded and I didn't. So we thawed every person that we could. We did lose a small handful. Some was on purpose. Some were from a few accidents. Where if you're an optimal and you have accidents, I'm pretty sure you won't have deaths so long as you have infirmary set up. If you're overworked, I think that's where if you have accidents, they might be explosions and then people die in that case. So we made it though. This is a great game. I'd highly recommend it to folks. The only thing I'd say is if you watch this walkthrough, I kind of did this short of like a speed run, which is just do everything so fast and don't really have much care for your workers and stuff. But this was probably the most comprehensive walkthrough that you can get on the harder difficulty, and we made some sacrifices to get the Beyond Time and Space achievement. You can follow all my choices for all these science events so that you don't have huge amounts of losses, because you could be losing science teams left and right to a lot of this stuff, especially in the last sector. A lot of it's just not worth it. We had so much science by the end, it didn't matter. But that's why I say Chapter 2 and probably the very beginning of Chapter 3 are the hardest parts of the game. You know what? Maybe the end of Chapter 1, all of Chapter 2, beginning of Chapter 3. That's, to me, the real meat of the game, because you're juggling a lot of things. Power, workers, it's industry, alloys especially, getting your food supply up and running. And then there's a point where you kind of get over that hump in Chapter 3 where you're like, you know what? I can leave the cryo centers on 100% of the time, and you're just thawing people to get to that 2,000 Arc of Humanity achievement, and that's when I think the game even knows. The developers knew. They're like, all right, this is the peak of the game. You've completed sort of the build resource scarcity part of the game. And from this point on, that's when you go to Chapter 4, and it's Piranesi time, where there's really not much point in needing to collect a lot of resources. It's just now you're in maintenance mode, and then you're interacting more with finishing the game. So that's why Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, much, much faster. But we also prepared a lot in advance. I had already trained a lot of colonists, and I had stored a lot of polymer knowing I needed to make those shuttles. So I was ready. That's the other thing too, and I had built a lot of batteries, and I had space for batteries. If you don't know those things are coming, Chapter 5 will take you longer, and you risk the Piranesi destroying Remus. And that I don't think is necessarily a game over, because you're settling on Romulus. The Piranesi getting to Remus is only a problem if you are choosing to join the Ashtangites on Remus, which we did not. So at least, like I said, we can be partners with them. We just don't necessarily have to join them at this moment. Let's get settled. Let's get off the ship. Let's build our own little area, and then we can consider, what's our relationship with the Ashtangites and Remus going to be? Because we saved them, to be fair, from the Piranesi, but also to be fair, we're the ones that brought the Piranesi here. So fun stuff. This is one of my favorite games I played recently. I think this is excellent. I think it's a very unique city builder. I mean, the mechanics of the game, they follow most city builders. There's a lot of stuff that feels maybe a little kludgy, but I think some of it's purposeful. Like not being able to do certain things that I would consider maybe quality of life, I think to a certain extent might be purposeful in order to add that resource strain to the player. I think it's meant to evoke that feeling of needing to micromanage a lot. And that's probably difficult to manage from the developer side of things, is deciding what do we allow the game to handle for the player versus not. And at a certain point, it's like, well, okay, we've automated everything and the player doesn't have to do anything. So where's the line to say, all right, this evokes the type of stress and resource strain we want the player to feel versus being way too tedious versus now everything's automated and everything's super easy. So so this is IXION. This was essentially a walkthrough. You're welcome. And we made it to the end. I'm glad you enjoyed, and I'll see you for whatever comes next. Goodbye.